بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
الحمد لله رب العالمين. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد يا أرحم الراحمين يا رب العالمين. اللهم اغفر لنا وارحمنا وعافنا واعف عنا واصلح حوالنا وأصلح بنا حوالنا عبادك الصالحين يا أرحم الراحمين، وأصلح حال أمة حبيبك محمد
صلى الله عليه
يا نعم
وسلم.
المولى ونعم النصير الكريم العفو من يخير في رجل.
يا رب.
اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد زين الوجود صاحب الكرم والجود صاحب المقام المحمود بعد الكرم والجود، وعلى آله وصحبه فرج كروب أمته وأصلح شؤونهم يا بر يا ودود يا أرحم الراحمين يا رب العالمين. نعم المولى ونعم النصير. بسم الله نويت التعلم والتعليم ونفع الانتفاع حتى على التمسك بكتاب الله وسنة رسوله والدلالة على الهدى والخير وربط الناس بنبيهم تحبيبه إليهم. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه الطيبين الطاهرين. الحمد لله رب العالمين. بسم الله.
بسم الله.
بسم الله.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Chapter 1. Explanation of what led Abu Abdullah al-Bukhari to compose his Al-Jami' al-Sahih and his sound intention in doing so. Know, may Allah grant knowledge to you and to me, that in the time of the companions and the elders of the followers, the traditions of the Prophet ﷺ were not recorded in any collections or arranged in any way at all. This was for two reasons. Firstly, in the beginning, they had been forbidden to do so, as is affirmed in Sahih Muslim, for fear that some of this would be mixed up with the text of the Holy Quran. Secondly, their memories were strong and their minds sharp, and in addition, most of them did not know how to write. Then towards the end of the age of the followers, traditions began to be recorded and arranged according to topic. This was because the scholars had spread throughout the land and many heretical innovations had arisen, such as the Khawarij, Rawafid, and the Qadarites, who disbelieved in fate. The first to make such compilations were Rabi' ibn Sahih and Sa'ad ibn Aruba, among others. They would compile each topic in a separate work. This went on until the early members of the third generation began to make compilations of legal rulings. Imam Malik compiled Muwatta, in which he sought out the strongest hadith of the people of Hijaz, adding to this some statements of the companions and legal opinions of the followers and those who came after them. In Mecca, Abu Muhammad Abdul al-Malik ibn Abdul Aziz ibn Jurayj authored his own compilation. Then there were Abu Amr Abdul Rahman ibn Amr al-Awza'i in Syria, Abu Abdullah Sufyan ibn Sa'id al-Thawri in Kufa, and Abu Salama Hamad ibn Salama ibn Dinar in Basra. Many people of their time followed their example until at the turn of the 3rd century, certain imams had the notion of making compilations containing the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ exclusively, and they authored musnad compilations. Ubaidullah ibn Musa al-Absi al-Kufi authored a musnad, as did Musaddad ibn Musarhad al-Basri, Asad ibn Musa al-Umawi, and Nu'aym ibn Hamad al-Khuzai, who settled in Egypt. After this, the imams followed their example, and it was rare for a Hafiz imam not to compile his hadith in musnad form. There were Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, Ishaq ibn Rahawayh, Uthman ibn Abi Shayba, and other noble figures. Then there were those who organized their collections both according to topic and in musnad form, such as Abu Bakr ibn Abi Shayba. When al-Bukhari radiallahu anhu saw these works and narrated them to others, coming to know them inside and out, he found that they contained a mixture of authentic, sahih, and sound, hasan reports, and many of them also created weak, da'if reports, in such a way that the strong could not be differentiated from the weak. He was.
This is not because they were ignorant of the Sahih or the Da'if, but because the books that they had, they were books of reference. So the first generation of books, they were books they would use them. It was their material. It was the material they would refer to give ahkam. We call that what? No, to give rulings, but we give that what?
Reference.
Huh?
Reference book.
Reference book.
Yeah.
They were their reference book. Same for the first. Same for the first generation of them, as well as for the masanid, both of them. For the first generation, they would even put all the references that they need to make ahkam. So for them, they will have their book, for example, like the Muwatta, Imam Malik, etc. It's there to tell you that I'm going to draw my legal opinions from this. This is my dictionary. This is my glossary. This is my
source material.
This is my source material. After that, the thaqafa or the culture or the tradition of musnad came, which is, it is still a book of reference, but exclusively made out the ahadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It contains only exclusively the ahadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It does not contain, like al-Muwatta, for example, it contains what other than the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It contains the sayings of the companions, for example, and even the sayings of his teachers, all those who preceded him, all the generations who preceded him, التابعون, etc. على كل حال, for the past few halaqas we explained how we disagree with some translations here, for example, and all of what that led to here. If you want to revise that and take notes, if you wish. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. But for example, here al-Bukhari came now starting a new culture. It's not like starting a new ilm. He's starting a new culture. He's starting a new thing. He felt the need that. So for example, the first generation, they felt the need to write down their reference book. Good. The generation after them, they felt the need to write down their reference book out of the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And for sure, we could refer to hadith authentic and hadith less authentic, depending on the purpose of the use. What are we going to use it? Depending. After that came this need. There was a need in the time of Imam al-Bukhari. Came this need to start a new tradition, which is to select amongst these references that we have in al-Masanid, amongst these ahadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that the ulama would refer to and would still keep referring to. It's not like Imam Bukhari started something, to tell the scholars of his time, and the scholars coming after him, the rest of ahadith, throw them in somewhere else or in fire. No. But he felt the need, and the need was felt, and the need was true and accurate, that amongst these ahadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, let us now select the most authentic ones and put them in a different book. In a different book. Bismillah. Tafadhal. That's how the tradition of as-sihah started. So, first of all, the first tradition that was there was before al-Muwatta. Book of reference for different topics. For example, you will find a book talking about business, another book talking about akhlaq, another book talking about marriage, another book talking about, so absolutely, you can understand that would, organically speaking, that would be the first thing, especially in the living of the teacher, or just for the first generation after the teacher. They will start really, because there is no doubt about the authenticity. It's not there, because people who lived with the teacher are still alive, and they are still there, and it's not about the authenticity. It's about how to use that ilm that we have. So it's about أول حاجة حاجة التبويب. The first need will be the need of what we call tabweeb, dividing into chapters, into topics, categorization. So, for example, so the first books that appeared in the time, even in the time of companions, of what they call tradition of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what we say, the sayings of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or the teachings we said of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, would be, for example, on business, on marriage, on or about on lying, for example, on war, on ethics of war, on etc., etc. So they started with that. After that, they started this to put all of them together in something called al-Muwatta. There was al-Muwatta of Imam Malik, there was Muwatta of Imam Zuhri before him, the teacher of Imam Malik. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted that the Muwatta of Imam Malik remains and becomes more famous than all of them. After that, as a book of reference, as a book of legal reference. After that came the musnad. The difference that the musnad contains exclusively teachings attributed to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. After that came this tradition of what we call Sahih, or commonly translated to authentic. Bismillah, go ahead.
He was therefore inspired to make a collection of authentic hadith in which no believing person could doubt. His resolve to do this was further strengthened by something he heard from his teacher, the commander of the faithful, in both hadith and jurisprudence, Ishaq ibn Ibrahim al-Handali, better known as Ibn Rahaway. We heard this from Abu Abbas Ahmad ibn Umar al-Lu'lu'i, on the authority of Hafiz Abu al-Hajjaj al-Mizzi, Yusuf ibn Yaqub, Abu al-Yaman al-Kindi, Abu Mansur al-Qazzaz, Hafiz Abu Bakr al-Khatib, Muhammad ibn Ahmad ibn Yaqub, Muhammad ibn Nu'aym, Khalaf ibn Muhammad al-Bukhari, who said that he heard Ibrahim ibn Ma'qil al-Nafasi say that he heard Abu Abdullah Muhammad ibn Ismail al-Bukhari say, we were with Ishaq ibn Rahaway.
So Ismail al-Bukhari is Muhammad ibn Ismail al-Bukhari is saying, I was with my teacher, Ishaq ibn Rahaway, yes. So when he was still learning, or at the end of his learning, when he was with his teacher, and then say the commander of believers, or of faithful. Again, it's not a terminology that should be translated Amir al-Mu'mineen. Just put it Amir al-Mu'mineen like that. Yes, literally speaking, it means commander of the faithful ones, but it's a title. There is Amir al-Mu'mineen in politics, Amir al-Mu'mineen in the King of Morocco today, they call him Amir al-Mu'mineen. But Amir al-Mu'mineen fil hadith is the title that the generations that the people of hadith know. They call Amir al-Mu'mineen fil hadith and Amir al-Mu'mineen fil fiqh wal hadith, etc. Ala kulli hal. Like the title al-Hafiz, etc. We don't have time to go through what's the definition of this or that. Just these are titles, like what you say professor today, or professor emerit, or
Professor
emeritus, or doctor, or something like that, or the dean, or honorable, or they were titles of scholarship, scholastic, or
Scholarship.
Bismillah.
we were with Ishaq ibn Rahaway when he said, if only you were to compile a book containing the authentic sunnah of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
So this is a teacher giving inspiration to his students. You know why the book is very Mubarak? Because it was an act of faith. Bismillah. What it means, what made it an act of faith? Responding to his teacher. Because the teacher told him, if only you do this, do not tell him I don't have time or this is so hard, or go ahead. What did he say? Ishaq ibn Rahawayh told his student Muhammad Imam al-Bukhari, if only you
were to compile a book containing the authentic sunnah of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Naam.
This idea entered my heart and I began to compile al-Jami' al-Sahih.
Al-Bukhari is speaking now. Naam.
We were also told via the established chain of transmission that Muhammad ibn Sulaiman ibn Faris reported that he heard al-Bukhari say, I saw the Prophet ﷺ in a dream, as though I were standing right in front of him. In my hand was a fan, which I was using to protect him from the insects. I asked an interpreter about this, and he said, you will protect him from lies. This is what led me to produce al-Jami' al-Sahih. Hafiz Abu Dara al-Harawi said that he heard Abu Haytham Muhammad ibn Makki al-Kushmihani see that he heard Muhammad ibn Yusuf al-Firabri say that al-Bukhari said, I never wrote a hadith in the Sahih without first making a purificatory bath and praying 2 cycles. Abu Ali al-Ghassani said, it is related that he said, I selected the contents of Sahih from 600,000 hadiths. Al-Ismaili reported that he said, I selected only authentic hadiths for this book, but the authentic hadiths I left out were even greater in number. Al-Ismaili said, this is because if he had included every single authentic hadith he had, every chapter would have contained the hadith of several companions, for each of which he would have given the chain. That would have made the book far too long. Abu Ahmad ibn Adi said that he heard Al-Hasan ibn Al-Hussein al-Bazzar say that he heard Ibrahim al-Ma'qil al-Nafasi say, I heard al-Bukhari say, I included only the authentic hadith in my book al-Jami' and I left out other authentic hadith so as it would not be too lengthy. Al-Firabri said that he heard Muhammad ibn Abi
It means what? It means the repeated ones. So it's the same. You find it's like the same hadith is narrated like from many places. You just go ahead.
Al-Firabri said that he heard Muhammad ibn Abi Haytham al-Bukhari al-Waraq say, I saw Muhammad ibn Ismail al-Bukhari in a dream. He was walking behind the Prophet ﷺ as the Prophet ﷺ walked. Every time the Prophet ﷺ raised his foot, al-Bukhari would put his own foot down in that spot. Hafiz Abu Ahmad ibn Adi said he heard al-Firabri say that he heard Najm ibn Fudayl, who was a man of understanding, say that he had a similar dream. Abu Ja'far Muhammad ibn Amr al-Aqili said when al-Bukhari compiled the Sahih, he showed it to Ahmad ibn Hanbal, Yahya ibn Ma'in, Ali ibn al-Madini, and others. They approved of it and attested to its authenticity, apart from 4 hadiths. Al-Aqili also said, in fact, the correct opinion about these 4 hadiths is that of al-Bukhari, they are all authentic.
So, this paragraph shows you the tradition of our ummah. Shows you that the way our ancestors and the way things were done. So people, they used to see and to notice the barakah and to appreciate the karama of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And people, they used to honor what is honorable. And it is important to mention these ahadith today, so maybe some people get discouraged from jumping on honorable things and sacred things, trying to desacralize them, just because they misunderstood what they mean, or they misunderstood the content or some of the content. So this is from where we came. That's the way our forefathers dealt with things. It's not befitting of us now to come and just change all of that and throw all of that and start this rational way of selecting a hadith and studying a hadith just purely from a purely rational perspective or something like that. Only bastards would do that. The people who have sanad, the people who have a noble affiliation, there was a tariqah. They were not stupid, those people. They had a way, and they have a way of dealing with things, the honor which is honorable, and they look at the signs, and subhanallah, when you think about it. So this is during the time of Imam Bukhari. During the time of Imam Bukhari, starting from his teacher telling him, do so and so, and after that his teaching, his colleagues and the people around him, the people of his time approving of his work, and some of them seeing even dreams about that. Seeing dreams is not a rare thing. A dream is never a reference. It is never a proof, not a reference. A dream is never a proof, but that shows you that our ancestors, they used to يتفاءلون, they used to give importance to these things, not to be, that wasn't a single proof. It's not like they did not know anything about the book, and because they saw the Ismail ibn Bukhari, Muhammad ibn Ismail al-Bukhari walking behind the Prophet ﷺ and putting his footsteps in the same places that Rasulullah ﷺ had put his footsteps, khalas, they decided to follow. No. We never use the dreams in that way. But they used the dreams as a confirmation, as a inspiration, and confirmation, as a sign that these things are honored, especially when these dreams are not seen by common people. These dreams are seen by other awliya, by other people in the jihad, other people who are really in the Maidan, other people in the field of the da'wah, calling to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and serving the teachings of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So subhanallah, we see that even in our days, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows from time to time, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala yatwi, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala empowers, gives this empowerment to a certain message. It could be a good message, it could be a bad message. There isn't anything that was made into place that actually gained success in this world, material or spiritual success, without the empowerment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, without the ta'eed from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Colonization, for example, as an evil, the Antichrist as a bigger evil, greater evil at the end of time. They will only succeed, or they actually succeeded, or except by yadin min Allah, empowerment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Themselves, they don't understand. How did they get that? Something, wow, what is this? The empowerment, or that kind of empowerment, is called istidraj when it is with people of evil. When it happens with people of al-ayadhu billah, people of evil, we call that istidraj, empowerment for them to just not misleading, misleading, but to they were brought, they are even brought faster to their destruction. They want to go to destruction, they are even brought faster to it. Or they are even driven faster to it. And it is something frightening. It's not something that people would. The magicians, when they do their work, the people of evil, when they do their work, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if He wills, and this is only a context, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants, from time to time He gives empowerment to a certain message, to a certain dawla, to a certain army, to a certain thing, and then Bismillah, La ilaha illallah. And from time to time, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives empowerment to good messages. To good messages, to good initiatives, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives empowerment. To the good ones. And that becomes a hujjah. Imam al-Ghazali was not the only one who has written about tazkiyah, for example. Muhammad al-Bukhari was not the only one who started something called Sahih or something like that. Or maybe he was not the only student who wanted to do a work called the Sahih, etc. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave empowerment for him to be able to accomplish this tremendous work. It wasn't an easy thing. And he's telling you that he selected it out of 600,000 hadith. Doesn't mean that 600,000 hadith. He did not tell you that he read all of them or he had to study all of them. Or no. He said, if you want to go back to more scientific thing about this, I think they must be. If they are not yet, it's another shame that we add to our shame. The class that we had with Shaykh Nainawi when he came about on the Arba'in, what did he on the Aqidah Tahawiyah? But at some point he spoke. At some point someone asked him about one of the questions that was asked to him was about the hadith. How could we trust Sahih al-Bukhari when, scientifically speaking, it's not correct? It can never happen. If we count his age, if we count his umr, and if we count the years that he has spent, how could he study 600,000 hadith, etc.? SubhanAllah. And then the answer was very simple. And you could. It doesn't mean that he was actually going and he searched for the 600,000. They were already there. And he selected. He went to the Sahih, to the ones who were known as authentic, and he put them. But still, it was a great work. It was a great endeavor. It needed the empowerment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Bismillah. And the empowerment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a hujjah after that. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives adhar, empowers a message, empowers da'wah, empowers a school of fiqh, empowers a wali in his time, etc. That becomes a hujjah, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not empower the people of good to destroy the people. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives empowerment to the people of good. Like when you read, we read that in the Quran about whom? Especially when we talk about the empowerment, the Qarnayn. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given the empowerment to the Qarnayn, to the people of good, to establish justice on earth. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, sallallahu alayhi wa also we read in the Quran that He has given empowerment to whom? To Iblis. He gave him tools that he did not even have, Iblis. He told him, go and do this, 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 and you can do this, and you can do this, and you can do this. All these doors are open. But the doors of their heart, I'm not going to give you sultan on that. You want to go with their money, their children, their wives, all of that, you could. But their hearts, only if they give you their hearts. Their hearts, you don't have power upon. You don't have power upon or over. You don't have power over their hearts except if they
give it to you.
They give it to you. They give their hearts to you. Willingly. Wanting to. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us, save us. Bismillah. Tafadhal.
Chapter 2. Explanation of the subject of the book and the author's purpose in writing it. We have seen that the author resolved to make his work authentic and to relate nothing but authentic hadith in it. This is the basis of the book's subject and can be seen by the name he gave to it. الجامع الصحيح المسند من حديث رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وسننه وأيامه. The authenticated attributed collection of the
حديث
hadith.
رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وسننه وأيامه. Hadith is the sayings. So all of these are teachings of Rasulullah صلى الله عليه وسلم. Hadith وسنن والأيام. So hadith Rasulullah صلى الله عليه وسلم, the sayings of Rasulullah صلى الله عليه وسلم. Sunan of Rasulullah صلى الله عليه وسلم, the tradition of Rasulullah صلى الله عليه وسلم. So it's not Rasulullah صلى الله عليه وسلم speaking, but one of the companions will tell you, I saw Rasulullah صلى الله عليه وسلم making wudu in this way. I saw Rasulullah صلى الله عليه وسلم washing his feet twice or 3 times, something like that. That's sunan. Rasulullah صلى الله عليه وسلم visited so and so in his when his wife gave birth, and he did this and this, for example. It's not Rasulullah صلى الله عليه وسلم teaching us you have to do this for the tahniq, etc. It's something, it's a description, someone described. That's the sunan. Ayyam, that's the seerah, the biography, al-ayyam. Ayyam, before people, they did not say, they used to say al-ayyam. Al-ayyam, ayyam min hayati, al-ayyam, etc. Talking about the days they have spent, literally speaking, the days they have spent on earth. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran, He says, وَذَكِّرْهُمْ بِأَيَّامِ اللَّهِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talking to one of His prophets in the Quran, He tells them, and remind them of the ayyam of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Remind them of the days of God. ذَكِّرْهُمْ بِأَيَّامِ اللَّهِ. Ayyamullah, it has many meanings. Some of them, they said, remind them of the noble days, like the day of Eid, like the day of Ashura, like the day of the days that they should be celebrating. ذكرهم بأيام الله, that there are days they have to celebrate. ذكرهم بأيام الله, according to other people, they are the days of Hajj, again, the sacred days for Hajj, or the sacred days like Friday or for us, or Saturday, Sabbath for the people before us, etc. According to other people, ذكرهم بأيام الله, remind them of the moments, the most important moments in the history, the most important moments and occasions and milestones, hafizakallah, milestones in the history of the humanity. Remind them. And the whole Quran is actually, when you read the Quran, especially Surah Al-Baqarah, it is ayyam. It starts with وَإِذْ قَالَ رَبُّكَ. It starts in the beginning, there is an introduction. After that, starting at the verse 30 or 33 or 34, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala starts وَإِذْ قَالَ رَبُّكَ, and when your Lord has decided. It starts with, from the first milestone, the creation of Adam, and what happened with Adam, and after that, Adam now on earth, and after that, the ayyam, the story of the prophets, one after the other, one after the other, and after that, ثُمَّ بَعَثْنَا مُوسَى, and after that Musa came, etc. Ayyamullah. The common, if we want to take all, to unify and to unite, or to bring all of these, or to assemble all of these definitions together, it means history. Al-ayyam means history. And absolutely, when you want to write history, you are not going to write everything. You are going to write only the milestones and the most important moments, in that history. So ayyam Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the biography. So now, so al-Bukhari, part of al-Bukhari, it was about the ayyam of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the day of Badr, the day of Uhud, the day of Bay'at al-Ridwan, the day of Sulh al-Hudaybiyah, etc. Now, so that's his intention, to assemble only the authentic ahadith, the authentic teachings of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We mean by that the sayings of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself, the traditions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam does not have habits, he has traditions. The people of God, they do not have habits. or because they are like that. No. If they do something, especially if they do it again and again, it's to establish a tradition. That's why we have to call it a tradition. So there are the sayings of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the traditions that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam established, and they are described by those who, the contemporaries, we call them the companions, or the witnesses. It's much better. And we have also the milestones, or the history, the milestones of his life. The moments, the most important moments and days in his life, alayhi salatu wasalam, also related by
witnesses.
By witnesses and those who came after them. These are all called teachings of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or referred to as sunnah, or referred to as hadith. Bismillah.
So the title translated in the book is The Authenticated Attributed Collection of the Hadiths of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his sunnahs and his life. And also from the statements of his we have narrated as reported by the Imams. Subsequently, he elected to include in it some beneficial matters of jurisprudence and law, and to this end, he employed his understanding to derive many meanings from the texts of the hadith, which he then distributed through the chapters of the book according to their relevance. He also concerned himself with the verses of the Quran that pertain to the law, deriving from them ingenious interpretations and following various ways of alluding to their meanings. Shaykh Muhyi ad-Din al-Nawawi, may Allah benefit us through him, said, the purpose of the Sahih was not to restrict it to hadith alone. Rather, it was to derive teachings from them and show their evidentiary value for certain specific topics. That's why on many occasions he included chapters with no chain of transmission for the hadith but simply the words, so and so reported from the Prophet ﷺ, or the like. Sometimes he gave the text of the hadith but no chain, and other times he related it as mu'allaq report. The reason he did this was that he wanted to cite evidence for the issue he made the chapter for, alluding to the hadith because it was well known. Sometimes it was a hadith that had already been given, perhaps not long before.
No.
Many of his chapters contain more than one hadith, while some contain no hadith at all. Some do not contain a verse from the Book of Allah, and some contain nothing at all. Some have claimed that he did this deliberately to show that he could not find any hadith meeting his criteria relating to the subject of the chapter. As a result of this, some of those who copied the book combined chapters containing no hadiths with hadiths that were not included in any chapter. This made the book difficult to understand for those who read it. Imam Abu Walid al-Baji al-Maliki explained the reason for this in the introduction to this book about the names of al-Bukhari's narrators, relating on the authority of Hafiz Abu Dhar Abdul ibn Ahmad al-Harawi and Hafiz Abu Ishaq Ibrahim ibn Ahmad al-Mustamli said, I copied al-Bukhari's book from the original copy of his companion Muhammad ibn Yusuf al-Firabri. I saw that some parts of it were incomplete, and other parts were left blank, including chapter heading with nothing after them, and hadiths without chapter headings. So we put the two together. Abu al-Walid al-Baji said, the correctness of the statement is borne out by the fact that the narrations of Abu Ishaq al-Mustamli, Abu Muhammad al-Sarakhsi, Abu Haytham al-Kushmihani, and Abu Zayd al-Marwazi all differ in the order of their arrangement, even though they all copied them from the same source manuscript. This is because they all had different ideas about where to put the material that were on separate scraps or additional notes. This can clearly be seen in the way you've confined 2 or more chapter headings in a row without any hadiths between them. Al-Baji continued, the reason I had brought this up is that the people of our land had many requests for explanations as to how the headings relate to the hadiths, and have gone to great lengths to offer interpretations that are arbitrary and incorrect. I say that this is a good rule to apply when it is difficult to explain how a chapter heading relates to a hadith, but that it is a very rare occurrence, as we shall see, Allah willing. It has occurred to me, however, that despite this, al-Bukhari approached his chapters in a variety of ways. If he found a hadith that matched the heading even in a subtle way and met his criteria for authenticity, he would relate the hadith using the conventions of his book. That is, by using the expression so-and-so told us, hadathana, or the like, or on the authority of an, according to his own criteria for this. If, on the other hand, he could only find a hadith that did not meet his criteria but did have evidentiary value for the topic, he would write it down in the chapter but use a different expression that was distinct from his own convention when relating hadiths that met his criteria. This is why he used mu'allaq reports, as we shall see in the chapter on the status of such reports. Now, if he could not find a hadith for the topic that was authentic according to his criteria or even according to anyone else's, but there was a hadith of some value, yusta'sanu bih, which some scholars prefer above utilizing analogy, he would use the wording or meaning of that hadith as the title of the chapter, and then relate in the chapter either a verse of the Quran attesting to it or a hadith supporting the general meaning of it. Thus, the hadith in the Sahih are of three kinds, as will be explained in detail, Allah willing. We shall now begin explaining the author's criteria for authenticity and exactly why this is the most authentic of all hadith collections. Hafidh Abu al-Fadl.
Alhamdulillah, barakallahu fikum. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us. It's very at some point it's very scientific, it's very technical. But alhamdulillah. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا وحبيبنا شفيعنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه الطيبين الطاهرين. One of the reasons, actually, they said, when he started writing the book, based on more ahadith than the ones that are there. So in the beginning he had these ahadith, but after that, after more research, they did not meet his criteria of authenticity. So the chapters were left with titles without content. Because in the beginning, when he started with what we had, the raw material, the material before the scrupulous refining, before the scrupulous research. So based on the first research, he had this book, or maybe that was the book that the draft. So after that, he started taking off the ahadith that could not meet his criteria to be consistent with his own self, to be consistent with his own method. So he established a method as a scholar, and after that he went back to revise all these ahadith that he has actually put in the first draft, and if they don't meet his own criteria, he would take them away. Or if they do not meet, at least he would keep some of those that did not meet his own criteria, but they met the criteria of other people, and as you heard, he would refer them in different way. But sometimes they wouldn't meet nor his criteria, nor the criteria of other people. What would he do? That's it. Only the chapter headings. He won't take it off. He would leave it like that. He would leave it like that. He left the chapter headings because they are topics that need to be to be addressed, to be studied. And he would show you how to. Sometimes he would just give you the verses from the Quran related to that topic, and the teachings. There are teachings of the Prophet ﷺ related to that topic, but not in the ahadith that they met his criteria. And I heard it from one of our shaykh. That's it. It was an act of humility. It was an act of humility, and to not take off the chapters altogether. It was an act of humility to say there is still room to find more. There is still room to find more authentic ahadith, and it doesn't mean that all he has the final exhaustive. So if you can, he gave the method, and if people after him could really using that method or maybe refining the method to uh, find a hadith who would be authentic and relate to the topic, they would put them there. There are many opinions about that. Alhamdulillah, there are many interpretations. There are some interpretations that maybe you are more acquainted with. The interpretations of Orientalists to tell you, okay, wow, those people did not know how to make scholastic work, and they were just dans leur tâtonnement de recherche scientifique. Hein? Tâtonnement, like the blind one. Huh? Huh?
Fumbling around. Yeah.
So those people, they did not have that. We had to wait after the Renaissance for people to come and get the Fath al-Mubin, and get God's empowerment to start actually writing scientific works. But it was an attempt. It was an attempt to make a scientific work, but they could not really, because these Arabs are so disorganized. So even when they want to organize something, they will just make something like that, and then they won't finish it. So it was an unfinished business, according to some. But if you have good interpretations, you'd better, even scientifically speaking. If you have good explanations that could stand all of these explanations that were given, with the explanations that I just gave now, I think you don't need to go to the very shortcut, to the shortcut. Oh, it was an unfinished business, or he did not know better, or he couldn't, or whatever. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barak ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabihi tayyibin tahirin. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increase our ilm, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increase our adab, and may we learn, inshallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the himmah, increase us in himmah, and increase us in ni'mah. Sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabihi tayyibin tahirin. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Al-Fatiha. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. Malik Yawm Al-Din. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. ربنا انفعنا بما علمتنا، ربي علمنا الذي ينفعنا، ربي فقهنا وفقه أهلنا وقرابات لنا في ديننا، مع أهل القدر والأنثى وذكر، ربي وفقنا وفقهم لما ترتضي قولا وفعلا كرما، وارزق الكل حلالا دائما، وأخلا أتقياء علما، نحظى بالخير ونكفى كل شر. ربنا وصح لنا كل شؤون، وأقر برضا منك العيون، واقض عنا ربنا كل الديون، قبل أن تأتينا رسل منون، واغفر استر أنت أكرم من ستر، وصلاة الله تغشى المصطفى من الحق دعانا، والوفاء بكتاب فيه للناس شفاء، وعلى الأهل الكرام الشرفاء، وعلى صاحب المصابيح الغرر. اللهم اهدنا بهداك، ولا تولنا وليا سواك، ولا تجعلنا من خالف أمرك وعصاك، واجعلنا ما يسارع في رضاك. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه الطيبين الطاهرين. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الفاتحة. وسعنا على الصراط المستقيم صراط الأنعمت عليهم غير الضالين آمين.
ربي صلي على النبي شفيعنا أحمد. الله صلي ربي على النبي مولانا